From ancient legends to creepy real-life encounters, we're diving into the world of creatures. And I've got a story out of Louisiana that will literally make the hair stick up on your body. So a little bit about me, we're going to do this as I'm going to crochet as I'm speaking of this story. Now get your beverage. Mine is somewhere. Grab your crochet needle and let's go. So, where do werewolves come from? Like, where do the legends come from? Were they always just from the howling beast? Or were they just, Hollywood's little fun story that they just want to have a war between werewolves and vampires? We don't really know. In ancient Greece, King Lycaon was turned to wolf by Zeus. One says that King Lycaon gave Zeus a, a something to eat, right? But that something was apparently Zeus's child. And Zeus was like, yeah, that's enough for me, so I'm turning into a wolf. I'm not sure what, that's kind of how we got in the lycanthropy. That name kind of stemmed from ancient Greece. And then we can talk about maybe in the medieval Europe where there were werewolf trials. Kind of like the same witch trials, but they just didn't blame the women. It was really during superstition. It was very heavy in it. And of course we know about the Hollywood, you know, Jacob versus Edward and all the things, Teen Wolf, all those things. So I'm like, where did this actually drive? Like, where did people get these ideas? Our first case, we're gonna go to France and the Beast of Gévaudan. Now, this happened in the 1760s. And so this beast was just a nuisance. He apparently killed over hundreds of people, mainly targeting women and children. And the people were fed up. They were scared. They didn't want to leave the house. They're like, there is a thing out there. We need to get him. Now we had a hunter slayed the beast. He saved the day. And everyone was like, hooray, hooray. They found out, they look at the beast and they're like, that's just a regular wolf. That wasn't like the beast. Because after that, the attacks continued. And it kind of was just like, kind of just went all over France. It just kept attacking. So we're not really sure, like, did he even attack? And who is this thing? What is this thing? We don't know. We're going to head over to Germany. This was called the Werewolf of Bettyburg. Now, this was in 1589. Now, some of this is kind of one of the first encounters of featuring a human as a werewolf. Now, the guy, Peter Stump. Now, Peter was definitely an outsider. He wasn't really with the folks, the town folks. He lived he lived kind of away from them. So he was just like, people were like, he's weird. We don't like Peter. But the thing is, when these killings and things that there's a ton of things they accused him on, and they're like, well, it has to be Peter because he's like, he's an odd guy. And poor Peter, they blamed him for the whole thing. And so, the people was like, we're gonna go get him. So then they all, they brought their picket forks and went on down to Peter's house and tortured him, brutally tortured him. And during this torturing, he finally admitted to being a werewolf. And I was like, see, wait, said you're a werewolf. The thing is, like, what people tend to forget, especially, these werewolf trials, the Salem witch trials, is that people are going to admit to a lot of things when they're being tortured because they want the torture to stop. But unfortunately for Peter, they still executed him. And yeah, so they said he admitted to devil worshiping. He also said that the devil came out with the magic belt, and that's how he was able to turn into a werewolf. And I'm like, how did they get all of that out of him while they were being tortured? I just don't know. But like I went there. But Peter Stump was, one of the people. They were like, werewolf. So you think was he a werewolf, or he just, some superstition? They just didn't know who to blame, so he was the perfect scapegoat. So now we're gonna go down to Wisconsin. They have the best cheese, right? So America, called the Michigan Dogman. Now this 7-foot beast was spotted. First time spotted was in 1887. The Bray Road Beast in Wisconsin. This creature liked to chase cars. Okay, he also scrummaged through garages. He also scrummaged through garbage cans at night. So when people were taking their trash at night, We have to stop the yapping to get to the story of Roy Stubblefield. Now, Roy Stubblefield was just a regular schmegular guy. He was, raised in the South. He lived with his cousins for a little bit, and as it got older, they were graduating high school. The mom, his aunt was like, "Okay, guys, I'm moving. Y'all can stay here. It's a nice little house." He's like, "Oh yeah, we about to have a good old time." And she's like, "Well, but I do need help. I'm moving to New Orleans, and I get to take a little trip to New Orleans. I'm definitely going to help her pack." So then they take their road trip. They get there. He stays for a little bit. He is loving New Orleans. He's like, "Listen, I know that you want to be here by yourself, but I I need to stay. This is the time. This is the place to be." And so he's like, "I'll get myself a little job. I'll get my own apartment. Just let me stay for a little bit." She's like, "You know what? No problem." So she let him stay with him. And Roy finally got himself a job. So as it turned out, Roy did he got himself an apartment. He was just, getting himself together. Him and his boss he worked at like this clothing little place. Him and his boss got along pretty well. They figured out different, they kind of started getting along. He saw a girl walk in and he said, "Oh, she's a baddie." And she's like, I mean, hey, if you want to go talk to her." He's like, "You think I should?" And so Roy says when she came in, like I said, stacked baddie. She had some nice, beautiful, piercing eyes. He said he felt like he had drawn an eye. He's like, let me go talk to her, see what I'm new here. I don't know how the girls work out here. And so he went to go talk to her, and like I said, he felt it, the way he described it is that he felt like drawn to her, which he's like never felt that before, but he like felt like he needed to go speak to her. And so he comes up to her, and like I said, she's a baddie. He says she has like eyes that like basically sparkled. They sparkled. And he said like he's never seen that eye color before because he like it changes as she talked. He even mentioned that to her, like, what color are your eyes? Like that like I've never seen. She's like, "Yeah, it changes sometime, people really compliment." And he said also that she had these big hoop earrings, that he's like, "Oh, okay, that's your style. Okay, I see you." And so he's like, "You know what, I'm gonna just say it. Can I take you out for a date?" And she's like, "Okay, yeah, that's cool, no problem. But my dad don't really like, me bringing people to the house. So like, he don't really like me, people courting me, so he gets a little weird when people start courting me." And he's like, "Courting?" But he's like, "This is the 80s. Like, what? Courting?" And he's like, "Well, it's down south, so maybe people just still talk kind of old fashioned, even though he's from the south too, but he's like, maybe this is different kind of, I don't know." And so he's like, "Well, okay, well, she's like, "Okay, well, keep meet up at a park." And he's like, "Cool." So he is excited, getting fresh for his date, right? He mentions it to his boss. He's like, "Yeah, she said, yeah, I'm about to go on a date. You care about," he even switched his schedule around. He's like, "I'm about to go on this date." And so he finally ends up at the park. He got there a little early. There's people playing basketball. They come up to him like, "Hey, what you doing? What you doing here?" And he's like, "I don't really talk to people like that. I don't know." So he's like, gives him a nickname. And they're like, "Okay." So nobody giving their government name. Everybody's like, we're gonna, it's okay. We all know. And so he's like, "Yeah." So he's just waiting, waiting as the time go by. About 30 minutes pass by. They ask him, "Hey, you want to play a game with us?" He's like, "Nah, man, I'm waiting for my date to come." They're like, "All right." So then he keep going, he's just watching, waiting, looking at his clock, like, "Okay, this girl it's been about an hour now." It was like, they ask him again, like, "Hey, we about to start another game. You want to play?" He's like, "You know what? Forget it. Might as well." Right. And so at this point, he's like, I got stood up. He's like, that won't happen to me. So he's like, "Okay, that's fine. I mean, hey, things come up." And so he's like, and he don't got a phone number from this girl because she didn't have a phone. She didn't have like, and this wasn't like when people had cell phones like that. So he's like, "Well, I guess she'll just let me know if something happened." He was like, "I hope nothing." And so they played a good amount of games, for like 3-4 games. And he's like, "All right." They's like, "Hey, we about to get some drinks. You can come with us." So they end up walking through this brush, and it was like, "Yeah, it's fine." He's like, "Oof, this is a little, how long is this? How long?" He's like, "I know I wasn't getting set up," because he's like, "This is a long walk." It's like, "Oh no, we almost there, right?" And so the guy he's talking to, we can call him Buddy. Buddy's like, just talking to him. He's like, "Hey, you talking about, a baby?" He's like, "Oh, you ever take care of a baby?" He's like, "Nah, I don't got none, but yeah, I know. I tell you, like, well, how do you know all the? How do you know when they get sick? How do you know how to take care of them when they how do you feed them? And he's like, oh, like, why are you asking all these questions about babies? He's like, oh yeah, I just found out my girl about to have a baby. He's like, okay, you'll be fine. Like, there's directions for everything. There's books, there's places, and so they get a little comfy, and then out of this is the time. This is when Roy Stubblefield's life changes forever. This moment, they hear a sound. So when they look over, they see it's like a swift of feet. They hear rumbling in the brush. Now I'd say this grass is very high, and a big beast comes lunging at them. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna call him Buddy. That's the friend. Jumps on top of him. Mind you, everybody, so the other group, the other two men, boys, honestly, he jumps on top of it. And the way everyone was screaming, so everyone was separated. Not everyone was, so it was Roy and Buddy, and then the two other guys off a little bit in front of them. They scream. It was like, monster, monster, monster. Everyone is freaking out because there is a ginormous monster on top of Buddy. Buddy, on this hand, he is not moving. He is stuck in the sunken place, pretty much. He's not moving. And so they're like, no one knows what to do. So Roy is right next to him, like not right next to him, but he's enough where he can see he can see this beast, this big beast. He said this thing was about 7 feet tall, had hair tufts, like so big that the beast was on all fours, but the way it was like at eye level with Roy. That's how big it was. And so at this point, Roy says he peed himself. His body was just in like, it did not know what to do. And the people on the other, like, they're kind of in front of him, they're screaming, monster, what? They like don't no one knows what to do. Everyone's freaking out. And then the thing growls, because it growls at Buddy that's on the floor. He is still in a, he's not moving, he's not reacting, he's just looking. And Roy, the thing looks at him, it stands up. Roy thinks about running, right? At this point, he's thinking about running. But the thing looks at him and Roy pees again. So this time twice. He said his body just, he was so shocked, and so he could not fathom what was happening right now. And then he sees a gold hoop, a tiny hoop on this thing's ear. And as it stands up, it said they see a red light in the distance. As it stands up, Roy says it stands up as in like how people stand up. At first it was on all fours, hovering over Buddy, but at this point it's stand up. And Roy said there was no malfunction or nothing. It just stood up like a person was standing up from the ground. And so at this point it was towering over Roy. And then they saw boobs. And then the people off to the two boys that's further in distance, they're like, it got titties, like they are freaking out. So like, it's a girl. And Roy says he looks at this thing and his feet turn to try to run. And the thing like looks at him like, now if you run, it's not gonna be good for you. And he's like, the thing, it's like it knew him. He said the eyes was the same. It had like, a little piercing yellow to it. It was terrifying. And said, like I said, when that red light kind of comes beaming towards him, it jumps so like such a far distance that they did not see it anymore. Mind you, they are still collecting themselves, screaming like, "Did y'all see that? What a monster! Like, what? Mind you, Buddy is still on the floor. They are trying to make sure that Buddy is still okay. He is in the sucking place. He is not moving. He is just like, they're smacking him, trying to get him like, come on, we gotta go. He is not moving at all. And so Roy ends up carrying him, Buddy. And they finally end up at the liquor store they was trying to get to. And it's almost closing time. By this time it's probably like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, because so much time has passed. They didn't even know really how much time has passed at this point. they're knocking on the door like, hey, you gotta help us, you gotta call police, there's like a monster in the out, and so at this point the owner of the store, he's like, y'all need to get y'all stuff and leave, like I do not have time for this, I'm trying to go home, like go get what you want and leave, because I'm at the closed shop, right? And he's not believing him, and they like, he's like, I don't know what y'all on, what kind of drugs y'all taking, what kind of things y'all doing, but I don't have time for it, I'm trying to get home, get y'all stuff and leave. And so he did not believe me, he would not call the police. And so they're standing outside the shop, like just trying to figure out what to do, because at this point Buddy is still not reacting to anything. Roy said he's like smacking him. He said at this point he was probably smacking him too hard, but he did not know what to do because Buddy was not making any recovery. He is in his sucking place. He's not coming out of it. And they are all trying to get him like, come on, like he's not going. So eventually there's like, okay, well, Buddy's house is nearby. So they end up taking him to his mom's house. And she's like, what is wrong with my son? When they finally get there, she's like, oh, I'm gonna have to call police because y'all gonna have to all stay. I don't know what's happening, right? As you should, like, what he left perfectly fine this morning. And so Roy, he's like, you know what, I'm not from here. He had a little thing in his truck that he is not registered. He's like, I'm not trying to get in trouble up here, I don't know. So he's like, look, you know what, I did what I need to do. I brought him back to his house, I'm about to go. So he ends up leaving, and he never really found out what happened after that. And so, but at this point, Roy is so terrified that he honestly, he boards himself up in his apartment, because he eventually gets his own apartment, boards himself up in his apartment, never leaves the house. He only goes out to work and he drinks all night, because that's the only way he's able to sleep without having nightmares of this beast. And so his boss ends up like looking, and she's like, you are not doing well, like what's, he's like, you know what, I don't even know how to tell you, no one's believing me. I'm trying to figure out what even happened myself. He's not wanting to tell her, because he's like, I don't need you to laugh at me. And she was like, okay, just let me. I'm like, I'm not gonna laugh. Like I said, they had a pretty good relationship, so he's like, you know what, maybe she won't. And so when she tells him, she has no reaction. She's looking at him like, oh. And he's like, did you not hear me? What I just said? I just said I saw a werewolf. Like we encountered a whole werewolf like that. I don't. She's like, oh yeah, that's a some French. The way she said it was like a French word for like skinwalker, basically. That her grandma used to tell her about. Used to have stories about. He's like, what? Like this is things like, oh yeah, this was sounding like what you saw. He was like, if you want to keep it 100, I think it's old girl who I seen the other night, because she ain't never show up. I never see her. Like she was wearing the same things that was like, that could have been her that came. So he is terrified. He's like, she's gonna come back for me. That had to be her, because of the, he said the gold hoop. It was just on the werewolf, it looks like a small little ear hoop, but on her it was a big hoop earrings, like how girls wear their big hoops. And she's like, yeah, I think that's probably what you saw. Now mind you, Roy has the deal, he dealt with this for years, he kept it, he didn't tell many people, really his boss. And so he never really got in contact with the guys either. And they are, he's just trying to live his life, but he became like depressed. Like he would not leave his house. He had to change his schedule for his work, because he just said he could not be outside after hours, because he thinks that thing is coming back for him. And eventually he got out of the alcoholism. He ended up finding a job and things, but he tried to reconnect, and he actually ends up finding out more about Buddy's situation, that he never recovered. And something that I mentioned something that I forgot to mention is that while they were trying to get Buddy back to at the gas station, they saw a long white patch in his hair, and it was like trying to get the patch out of his hair. And they're like, oh, it must have been from us running. We and mind you, Buddy's like, Roy's like, I've played basketball with him. Like I had to jump over him. I've seen all parts of his head. He never had a white patch, and now he had a long white patch. So talking about getting scared to it aged him. And unfortunately, Buddy never recovered from this incident. And so the baby he had so many questions about actually reached out to Roy when Roy told his story, and he said, "No, y'all, like, what drugs did y'all give my father? Because I never got to have a father that was like there mentally, because he was basically like, in a way, like some diagnoses like schizophrenic. He just he was never the same. He would have reactions. He couldn't be by himself with the child. It just that traumatized him. It just never, he was never mentally the same. And Roy, tries to explain to him, like, no, that was not, we did not, like, I don't know if you talk to the other guys, that there was no drugs involved, like, we actually had that actually happened to him. And everybody dealt with it differently. So Roy, for instance, became, he was deep in depression and alcoholism for a while. So they don't really know, like, and then some people will come up to Roy and, like, think he's not telling the truth. And he said, okay, you think I'm lying? I want y'all to go out to that abyss area, start area, get a tent, and stay out there for the night and see if I'm lying. So what do you think? Are werewolves just folklore? Do you think these stories are real? Do you think they actually happen? And Roy's story, you can also look this story up. Do you think that's what happened? I don't know. Comment below and also leave some, like, hey, you should also do this story. I love to do some research on these. So as always, have a beautiful day or night, whichever way you see this. And remember, next time you hear a howl midnight, maybe don't go check. Thanks for watching Spooky Crew Podcast. Bye-bye. Begin.